Please note that no AI, colorization or digital enhancement has been applied to my personal archive of original postcards, photographs, slides and negatives featured on this YouTube channel. The picture postcard of St Mark's Church at Stambermill, from which this image is taken, was unposted, so I was not sure of the exact year. However, I am fairly confident the photograph was taken in 1910. The quality of the image allowed me to zoom in on the bill posters stuck to the gateway pillars. The poster to the left was promoting a tea and concert event. This church did hold an annual wake tea and concert, but this poster was informing people of an event at St John's Church in Stourbridge. It was the bill poster to the right that helped me determine a date for the image. I cannot read every word, but the large lettering proclaims a Sunday school anniversary, with the guest being the Reverend J. Tucker. Formerly a pastor at the Lyes Mount Zion Independent Chapel and the Congregational Chapel, the minister died in September 1912 at Topsham in Devon. This was his home county, but he was persuaded to become the pastor of the Congregational Church at the Lye, a position he held for 5 years in the 1880s. His return to the Lye for the Sunday school anniversary of 1910 was not his first return to this part of the Black Country. He came back to preach at the Congregational Church for the Sunday school anniversary of April 1906. He was held in high esteem at Topsham and the county of Devon, his death being reported widely. He was revered in the Lye, so his passing was marked by a long tribute in the County Express. Congregationalists in Lye and Stourbridge learnt with regret of the death of the Reverend James Tucker of Topsham, which occurred on Tuesday, September the 3rd, at a ripe old age. For over 5 years, Mr. Tucker was pastor of Lye Congregational Church, and his ministry is remembered in the district with gratitude. Only some 2 years ago, he visited Lye on the occasion of the Sunday school anniversary. On Sunday evening, a memorial service was held at the chapel, conducted by Mr. W. Green, who was intimately associated with the late Mr. Tucker, and who gave an inspiring account of his work in the Lye. Mr. Green remarked on the fact that this was the second time within a short period that they had been called upon as a church to mourn the loss of a former pastor and to pay their last tribute to an earnest Christian and dear friend. He did not purpose dwelling on the sorrow which death brought, for he knew this would not have been in harmony with Mr. Tucker's feelings or practice, or with his views upon life, death, and immortality. The late Mr. Tucker was introduced to the church at the Lye by a Mr. Perks, who, as far as his memory served him, was a retired minister, and who, having an independent income, did good work in supplying the different churches up and down the country. That he was a man of keen insight and sound judgment was clearly shown by the accurate way he gauged the needs of the church and the recommendation he made. Mr. Tucker was then minister at Morden Hampstead in Devon, and he was first invited to visit the Lye on November the 16th and 23rd, 1882, and so favourably did he impress the church that early in the year 1889 a call was presented to him, which he accepted, commencing his ministry at the Lye in the same year. When he entered upon the work, it was by no means in a flourishing condition. The membership was low, the congregation were poor, and the church had for years been dependent on the county union for a grant to enable it to support a minister. With the advent of the Reverend James Tucker, all was changed. His preaching attracted large congregations, and at an early date the necessity arose for more accommodation, more pews being installed. This, however, did not meet the requirements, and the next move was to lengthen the chapel by taking in the lecture room, which alteration included the abolition of the ordinary pulpit and the installing of a new organ. Not only did the congregation increase, but the membership doubled from 60 to 120. His preaching was generally topical, as could easily be gathered from the subjects: ropes and rags, the man who killed a lion in the pit on a snowy day, toiling and rowing, and a great fire, £22,000 worth of property destroyed. Sermons which attracted large congregations, and which were still remembered. His tact and intuition were unconquerable and helped him to make him the great organiser he was. His influence in public life was very great. On the public platform he was at home, and he was a forceful speaker on both religious and political subjects, and was held in very high esteem by many people outside his own church. Mr. Tucker's success might be attributed first to his strong faith and absolute trust in God, and after that to his strong faith in himself and his fellow men. An article in the Building News suggests that work on St. Mark's Church commenced towards the end of 1869. Published on December the 30th, 1870, the article stated, "The new church of St. Mark, Lye, has been consecrated. Mr. T. Smith of Stourbridge prepared the plans for a church with 400 sittings. The cost of the building consecrated is about £3,000. The memorial stone was laid by Lady Littleton only about 12 months ago. The fabric is of brick with stone facings. It is a nave with aisles and an apsidal chancel with vestry on its north side. The clerestory is entirely of wood and so bound together by iron rods as to rest on the pillars, so as to be unaffected by any settlement in the walls which might be occasioned by the mines in the vicinity. The central window of the apse is of stained glass." The T. Smith mentioned in the Building News was Thomas Smith. The article omitted the name of the builder, which was Mr. Horton of Brierley Hill. This was almost certainly Charles Arthur Horton, based in the High Street. With the growing population and congregation, it was the Reverend James Bromley, vicar of Christ Church at the Lye, who was instrumental in the construction of this building at Stambermill. Following his sudden death, his successor, the Reverend David Robertson, persevered and saw the plans realised. The church was enriched with a handsome memorial window to the Reverend James Bromley, erected by his friends, and by a number of other gifts. There were sittings for 400 adults in the church, all of which were free and unappropriated. The land on which the church was erected was given by Francis Tong Rufford, fire brick manufacturer of Prescott House at Upper Swinford. Associated with St. Mark's Church was the Church of England schools at Stambermill. This 1921 photograph shows some of the girls at the school, a mixed educational facility that also had an infant section. The school was built in 1852 and enlarged in both 1894 and 1905. The headmaster at the time of this photograph was John Howard Evan Evans, who is presumably the man stood on the right. I do not know the name of the other school teacher. One possibility is Arthur Harold Williams, who in 1922 was appointed headmaster of St. John's School in Stourbridge. Thanks for viewing and listening to my blurb. If you enjoyed the video, please give a thumbs up. Post your comments below if you have more info or a question. If you think these video clips rock, you can also subscribe to the channel.